Because the decision was made to hold this in open session, just a reminder that you have the discretion to discuss the deliberation, appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee in closed session. I understand that you've chosen to waive that privilege, but as a reminder, there is also a provision under Section 551.074 that the officer or employee, which would include a prospective employee, since we're talking about employment, who is the subject of the deliberation, has the right to request that that information stay in closed session. And so we're just asking you to consider the fact that any discussion of a particular candidate should be reserved for closed session.
Thank you very much. Well, let's start off with a recap of where we left off last time. During the summer, we posted a job in May. 134 some odd people applied. We formed a score sheet with the principals. All the principals read the resumes, 130 some odd resumes. They basically came up with the top 20. They scored them. We did this pretty quickly. And then by the time we called these people, everyone else thought these people were awesome too. And they were hired instantly. And so we went further down the list to kind of gauge our process. We had some strong principals or assistant principals, I would call them, but no candidate truly wowed us, right? Then we came back on the second iteration and tried to get some more. We brought in a consultant, and the consultant was the St. Mark's consultant. They did the hire for St. Mark's, right? And they opined that you're not going to get anyone in this type of year. Anyone on the beach this time of year you don't want, was the phrase. And the best time probably to post is November, December, and you'll get a lot of candidates. He said you're a coveted school. Again, they just did the St. Mark's hire from a couple of years ago. And they said you can do January, February interviews. There's a whole process they recommend to engage with the community, engage with stakeholders, engage with faculty. And then we debated whether we're going to use them or someone like them or keep it in-house with our own HR and try to run it. But basically that was where we kind of left off about a week and a half ago. And now we're here tonight. So I'll leave it open here. Anyone?
Yeah.
David?
I'd like to kind of reiterate and be a little more succinct on the facts. It is correct. We had over 130 applicants. The three principals, and I appreciate it, actually got it down to a top 10 list. And the top 10 list, by the time we got around to the interviews, I think 5 had taken jobs. So, one, I don't think we understood the environment, and 2, we're slow of getting to these candidates. We then had 4 or 5 interviews scheduled. The mayor and I interviewed, and I think, David, you were in a couple of these. We interviewed several people. But and this is the gist of this meeting, and I don't understand how this got so out of control. The mayor and I interviewed a candidate on July 10th at 9 o'clock, and after the interview, I called the mayor and I said, this guy's great. He's leader in the clubhouse. At the time, the mayor agreed, and you can contradict me if I'm wrong, Mayor. But there was no movement for weeks. So on executive session on July 31st, I asked the mayor to please have the rest of the council interview this person. And the mayor agreed, no action taken. I sent individual texts to Councilman Sansone, Shiner, and White saying, I think we have a great candidate. Interviews are being set up. I would really welcome your feedback. On August 4th, in executive session, or on August 4th, this candidate received an email from HR saying we're suspending the search till spring. So we cleared that up. And then again on August 7th, I once again pretty directly asked the mayor to have the rest of the council interview this candidate. This was during a presentation, and no action was taken. Now, I will absolutely agree with Councilman Shiner and Quint. We did say we were pausing till spring with the exception of this candidate. Is this a viable candidate? That's the only question I have. I don't know if he is or not. No offers were made. I just wanted to get this person interviewed. So finally, after the mayor and I had a pretty heated conversation on August 18th at Westlake Academy, the interviews were set up, and Councilman Sansone, and on August 23rd, interviewed this candidate, and Councilwoman Anna White interviewed on the 26th. That's it. Nothing nefarious. That's all we want to do, get in a room and say, is this a viable candidate before we go hire a recruiting firm, and why I was put off after repeated requests. I'm sure the mayor will have an answer to it, but I was frustrated. So I apologize for this political theater you're seeing tonight, but it is as simple as that request. Thank you.
All right. This candidate's not available till the first of next year, so it would give us plenty of time to involve the town, the teachers, pause. So I'm sorry y'all are all here because this candidate wouldn't even be available to start until spring. So I'm glad we got to hear you tonight. This is kind of a weird meeting that we had, but I think we all hear you loud and clear, and I think most of us agree with you that the town needs to be part of it, the parents need to be part of it. I think, you guys have PSTV, whatever the post-traumatic thing is, as teachers of what's gone through. The last head of school, most of us weren't here, and the one council person that might have been here, I don't know how they voted, and it was a different council, and you probably had to go along with the flow. So I 100% agree that we need to have input, and thank you all for coming out, because I think we hear it loud and clear. And if I look at it this way, if this gentleman's available in the spring and he turns out to be the top guy, fantastic. Or gentlewoman, since I'm not supposed to tip my cards. And so thank you all for coming out. I think we all heard you loud and clear.
Councilman Shiner, there's one, thank you. I couldn't agree more. And I just do want to say to everyone, we're not even far enough along the process. If we had a process in place to include parents and teachers, we're not even there. Right? We don't have the candidates to do that. We're really early in the process. The reason there was a sense of urgency, if this candidate happens to be the right one, he's got 2 other job offers he's looking at, one in Denmark and one in Panama. That's it. We've let a lot of people go. You just heard we lost 5 people right off the bat. There were some pretty good candidates because they got jobs quick. That's the only reason for the sense of urgency. I'm finished.
I have some commentary here. I actually sent everyone this resume on 18 May. The candidate wrote everyone on 22 May. And at the time, no one was wildly interested. And then later on, a month and a half later, we did a Zoom interview. I thought it was an affable person. I was concerned they spent too much time overseas and had gone native, like they wouldn't understand the Texas code, which is very important. I've spent the last 90 days as acting head of school cleaning up something I didn't do. And the last 90 days has been my highlight. I got to do the portables, and we replaced them with the modulars. That was a success for the council. We all did that together in collective, in public meetings. The low point is, I guess, when the parents of rescission I had to go talk to, and they tell me if their child commits suicide, it's my fault, right? So I'm super in tune and super concerned that someone understands Texas education. And the meeting tonight, in my view, did not match where we were a week and a half ago. And it concerned me drastically. We unanimously knew what we were doing, and we came out, and we voted, and we put an interim in, and now I'm here tonight. I'm on Wednesday night, and I already put enough time in for this stuff. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why did you continually put off my request to have the rest of the council interview this candidate?
I did not.
It's on the record. Yes, you did.
I did not.
Look, can
That's fine.
I just interject briefly?
You had his resume. He emailed you directly.
Mayor, I'll take some personal responsibility for this. I think all of you are aware, I'm one of the council members who has not interviewed this candidate. There's no particular reason. It's just, I think Councilmember Sansone has said, there are so many things going on at any one given time. It is so rare for us to come together as a council just to debate one issue. So it's kind of a good opportunity that we're here just to discuss this point. Look, I didn't fully appreciate that there was this sense of urgency. Yes, these discussions have been evolving. We have talked about the process to replace head of school. in every, if not most, if not every council meeting we've had since the previous head departed. I think what is clear is, we have not defined fully yet what this process is supposed to be. We've talked about what we'd like to do. We did talk to a recruiting firm in the last meeting. I think the intention is we'll talk with them again. I know we'll try to close this out in executive session because there are certain things we cannot discuss in an open meeting, including contracts and other such things. I think, one of the takeaways I would like all of you to have before we close out the public meeting is just what our intentions and ambitions are. I think we all heard you loud and clear, and I thank you personally for all the comments and emails that have been sent. I think it's clear that everybody wants to be included and have an open and transparent process. I genuinely believe everybody on council feels the same way. Kim, to your point, I agree. Look, if this candidate turns out to be the very best, there is no reason why we should hold up, any particular process. But I do think, we should move forward, define what we want to do. If that's having a recruiting firm, identifying who the committees should be, having appropriate stakeholder input throughout this process, then I'm all in favor of that. And I hope we could define that before we depart tonight and get everything moving in the right direction. And I promise I will talk to this candidate and give you my honest feedback, but I'd also like to make sure that other important stakeholders, residents, teachers, principals also have a chance to speak to this candidate, because I don't want to be one of the individuals making that decision without a broader buy-in.
Yeah, I'd like to just jump in now. Well, first of all, I think this is a success. I mean, as much drama has been created, I now get to learn what people think about this candidate for the first time, which is really the point of me calling the meeting was, is this somebody that we want to continue to move forward or not? I thought he was highly qualified. There are some knocks with him being abroad, but he checks the IB box through and through. Culturally, I thought he was an amazing fit, amazing communicator. He's a coach. He or she is a coach. Seems to be one of those people that would never be in their office, but would be in the hallways, ingratiating the students and the teachers. I felt this candidate should not be ignored, and I hope that you guys get a chance to meet with this person, and we can figure out if we want to, accelerate the process of hiring this search firm, put this person through maybe their process of evaluation, since this is what they do every day, make some recommendations back to us. And then when it comes time to think about compensation and contracts, perhaps this executive firm could help us with that as well. If we don't really understand the market, they actually have all the market intel. So, part of the reason I wanted to meet with the council is to say, do we need to update our process? And how do we do this so that it's unassailable? We have a lot. I look back at the last year or some of the things that went down, and we didn't do a good job communicating, and we ended up with spectacle after spectacle in this chamber. I call that an unforced error. My background is investing in companies, and time is money, and every day that goes by without a plan, we're hurting ourselves and our reputation. So, the first thing we typically do is line up all the priorities and figure out how we're going to achieve them. Those are usually driven from the budget. So to have this big gap, this is a bit of a side point from the head of school. This is part of my frustration with just how this organization has to work. The budget informs the business plan informs the KPIs, the key performance indicators, and those, become the priorities of the business. We need to create a strategic plan for the town and the school. We have nothing on the agenda for a strategic plan. And I would like to see our urgency as a council increase, whether that's an offsite. I've been trying to get with Stan and Janet to figure out, how do we get together just to whiteboard this thing and figure out what we're all running at and figure out how to best execute in the most expeditious, time frame. This head of school thing is just one example. So you can imagine my frustration when I look across all the things that we're looking at as a town. There are many. I'm sure we all could recite 20 of them off the top of our head that need attention. And if this one very definable thing, which is something we've all done in this room, either we've looked for a job or we've tried to fill a job, it's a pretty definable process. And I think it's important that we come to an agreement on how to make sure we don't get smacked in the face day 2 when we make this decision. And the only way to do that is to be inclusive, is to make sure that all constituents have had a chance to weigh in on this and that people don't feel jammed. Nobody likes to feel jammed. And I don't intend to be somebody that jams this town with any decision. And so I put it to this council, I put it to our advisors and the staff to help us find ways to get together as a group legally and have the discussions, define the priorities of this town, and figure out how we're going to go achieve them. And I think that's it for now.
Tim? Yes.
All right. The only thing I'll say is this is a very much a thankless job, and that's fine. we get paid what it's worth, which is zero. But I'll say this. I mean, I never wanted to ever be a part of government or anything else, but when we came here, there was just, you picked up a rock, there was a problem. You picked up another rock, there's a problem. It's like trying to say, wow, let's have a plan when the buildings came down on 9/11. No, you're just in survivor mode and you're trying to do best you can with what you got. And so I understand Vic's frustration. I had frustration, and that's why I came on board. But when Vic and I have talked, I said, all right, let me just read the 17 things that we did do. You know what I mean? And I'm not one of these guys that likes to settle, and I want the best, and I expect the best, and I want our town to be top 5% in everything. But we really, really had a turnaround. I mean, that's like, Jimmy Johnson having a 1-15 Cowboys and go, why are you not in the Super Bowl the very next year? I mean, it takes a while to turn it around, and that's coming from an impatient person. So I promise you this, that everyone that has been here has done their very best. I honestly feel everyone's intentions are pure. It just hasn't been easy. And so this is the first time we get to help the whole community pick a head of school. And I promise you, we heard you, and I promise you we want what you want. It's just, which problem do you fix first? I mean, we had Entrada. We had the town manager was over the school. We had no policies and procedures in the school. We inherited someone that we wouldn't have picked. On and on and on and on. And so it's been a challenging yet rewarding, because we have achieved stuff. Just like getting rid of the portables. You said 10 years. Some of those were 20 years. I mean, those things are horrific. And the battle and the abuse we took on making the decision to basically call an emergency and get rid of those portables, those same people aren't here today, but they just beat us up for making an executive decision to take care of our kids. There was rats and raccoons and all kinds of stuff underneath there. Possums. So all I'm saying is I agree with Vic. It's frustrating, and I can see the frustration. But the other side of it is we've lived this, and we turned it around. And Anna, Kim, and David were there longer than I was, and thank God, because I don't know if I could have endured what they endured. And then I parachuted in, and I've done maybe a year or whatever, and now Vic's stepping on. And I promise you we'll do our best, but this hasn't been us sitting there twiddling our thumbs. There's been so many things, and I promise you we'll make you proud.
I'll make 2 more comments. Can they ask questions of us? If we want? Sure, go ahead. I was just asking. Any of the people in the audience here? Sure. Okay. Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, so some people asked if this meeting today was really necessary, and I think the answer for me is a resounding yes. What does success today look like? Well, for one thing, we've actually come to alignment that we all openly agree to a very inclusive search process for the head of school. But to make that happen, we actually have to improve the ways of working amongst us as a board, and I think that's very important. In the salient incident here with the search for the head of school, the mayor and the subcommittee was charged and accepted that task to initiate the search for a head of school, identify initial candidates for the full board to review. And I personally feel like we've let the public down because we have not brought a handful of finalists for the full board to interview, and it's been a few months now. So I think that as we move forward, the board direction needs to be robust and unencumbered. So that means very granular asks like no canceling meetings without council consent, no suspending our search process without direction or consent by the council, and no obstruction when council members want to add agenda items to a council meeting. I think when we leave today, I would very much like for us to agree on initial next steps to move towards a better way of working together as a board.
Yeah, thanks. In the last year, I've probably done about 1,500 hours. Acting town manager, stepped in as acting head of school. And, in order to do this job effectively, you got to attend meetings, you got to be here. And I'm here every day. And so when you speak, you have to speak like you go to the meetings every day. And there's nothing ever preventing anything from the agenda. Every meeting, at the end of every agenda, I ask, does anyone want to enter anything in the agenda? You can watch every video. No one says anything. You can watch last week, 2 weeks ago. It says the exact same thing. At the very end, not one word opened up. So there was no cause for an emergency meeting today because we had reached a conclusion 2 weeks ago of what to do. And my concern is that people met on the side they shouldn't have. And that's where I'll leave it at. Anything else to say? Let's do it now. If not, David?
No, but can we close out in executive session just so we can move forward?
Sure. We'll close out the open public session and we'll go upstairs here. Folks, thanks very much for coming. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, again? Okay. We're going into closed session under the town council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code annotated Chapter 551, Subchapter D for the following. Section 551.074A1, deliberation regarding personnel matters to deliberate regarding Westlake Academy Head of School.